Good evening. Oh, yep. It's Sherard again. For our weekly voting workshop. As you can see, I am not at the Clark Historic Site this evening, but I do have some things I wanted to share today. I do have some things on my mind concerning some of our recent events. First, maybe 2 weeks ago, we had the trial of Wlkie, an Asian store owner who shot a young black kid in South Carolina. This kid came into his store and touched some of his merchandise, touched some of the items in the store. And when he was confronted by the store owner, the Asian man, Mr. Wlkie, the kid ran and he was shot in the back by the store owner. Then 2 days ago, I believe the Carmelo Anthony verdict came down, and Carmelo Anthony was called over to the tent of an opposing sports team, high school sporting event, and he was called over to the tent of a rival team by a friend, and he was confronted and threatened by two other students who were white, and he was threatened. There was some kind of fight, and one of these kids who confronted him and threatened him was stabbed and killed. And we're sorry to hear that there was a death. I'm sorry. I really hate that all of that happened. But Carmelo Anthony was tried for murder and convicted a couple of days ago. And a lot of people are upset about it. It should give us all pause, man. We hate to hear about anybody dying or losing their life. But when you put this thing in perspective, you know, it's a pattern is coming out. A pattern is emerging. So you got the Asian store owner, Wlkie, shot this kid in the back. Now, let's start with Carmelo Anthony. According to the law, from all the experts, from what the experts are saying, according to the law and the statutes in Texas, Carmelo Anthony committed murder. That's what they said. That's what they convicted him on. He was guilty of murder. Okay, fine. Let's jump over to Wlkie. I don't care what state you're in. I don't care what state, Alabama, California, Missouri. I don't care where you are. When you shoot someone in the back, you are not under threat. Someone's running away. That is the end of that confrontation. You are not in danger. They are running away. Now, that's murder. But Wlkie was acquitted. He was acquitted. Carmelo Anthony was threatened by two or more bullies, defended himself. He's convicted. And there were questions there. There was a lot of questions there. There were a lot of things going on with that trial. There were three black people, three black educators, as a matter of fact, three black teachers, educators, well qualified to be jurists. They're well qualified to be on that jury. They would have understood that evidence. They would have understood the laws. They would have understood the judge's instructions. Educated black people. They were kicked off the jury. Okay? They were kicked off the jury. So, an all-white jury found this black kid guilty of murder. But the Asian who shot the black kid in the back, he's acquitted. Now this is, you know, we got a pattern emerging here. You can't help, you know, people are gonna say all kind of things. That the legal experts and the supporters of the system, the diehard supporters of the system, say we're in a civilized society. We're in a civilized society, And we live under the rule of law. We have rule of law, and it's a civilized society, and we can't just have people going around stabbing people because they were pushed or because they were threatened. So that begs the question, okay, so Carmelo Anthony, he was supposed to wait. So how many licks should he have taken before he would have been justified, in defending himself? How many licks should he? 2 punches in the face? 3 punches in the face? Did he have to get knocked on the ground? Did he have to get stomped a little bit? How many stomps? How many kicks should he have taken before he would have been justified in defending himself? How many times should he have been pushed? How many pushes he was pushed? They said he was pushed twice. So should he waited to the 5th push? Should he have waited till he was pushed to the ground? Or should he have just went out and just stood in the rain and just got wet, got soaking wet, caught a cold, a pneumonia in the rain? I mean, what? What the thing is? I'm sorry to say, there's a double standard. There's a double standard. The law, it just seems like to me every time these things happen, it does not go well for black people and African Americans and minorities. It just does not go well for us when these things happen. Rick Child, acquitted. Shot this guy in the back. He's acquitted. Carmelo Anthony, he's convicted. And I'm sorry, but I can't help but say, I mean, this is a trend. When you look back and see, this is not the first time this thing's happened. Man, we've been seeing this happen forever. These are just the most recent cases. This has been going on, man. This has been going on for years. I mean, you can go back. We can go all the way back to Trayvon Martin was stalked, followed, and shot and killed by a white guy, and that white guy was acquitted. He was acquitted. Breonna Taylor, police obtained a bogus search warrant, falsified warrant, kicked this lady's door in and killed everybody in the house. And no one to this day, that was years ago, and no one has served a day of time in jail for it. It's a million of these cases. A former NFL player, a former black NFL player, was traffic stopped on I-20 in West Alabama and was found dead in his jail cell. That was about 4 years ago. And I haven't been following that story, haven't heard much about it, but I bet you no one has spent a day in jail over that guy found dead in the jail cell in West Alabama. So the trend is that black lives are devalued. We're devalued, dehumanized, devalued. So, a black man cannot defend himself against a white man, cannot defend himself even against an Asian man. So the value of a black man's life is going down by the day. So a black man's life is worth less than a white guy's life. Black man's life is worth less than an Asian man's life. And now, the young man in the incident with Mr. Rick Child in the Asian guy's store, he didn't steal anything. He didn't steal anything. He touched some of the merchandise in the store. So you can't touch you can't even touch it. He touched the bottles of water. And he was killed for touching the water. So if a black man defends his life, defends his person, defends his property, he is at greater risk of death, bodily injury, or incarceration. So when it comes to black people, the law is going to be applied. We're going to apply the law when it comes to black people, but the law it favors other races. It seems to be favoring other races. And no one wants to talk about these statistics. You can just look at our jail population. We got 60% jail population is black. Yet across the country, overall, across the United States, we're only like 18% of the population, but we are 60% of the people in jail. Because the system does not favor us. The system does not favor us. But that's what they call, that's what we call disparate impact. But Trump outlawed that. So I'm sorry. So that we can't even use that anymore. We can't make that argument anymore but that's what it is. That's what it all boils down to, is that the system just does not favor us. The results speak for themselves, because all these things wouldn't be happening. And they say, I'm gonna say they say that we don't need any extra protection. We didn't need the Voting Rights Act. We didn't need that extra protection. We didn't need Section 2. We didn't need Section 4. You don't need that. We're in a colorblind society. That's what they said. We're in a civilized, a colorblind, civilized society, and black people don't need extra protection. We didn't need, but I think we need all the protection we can get. We need all the protection we can get. We need the Voting Rights Act. We need Section 2. We need Section 4. We need DEI. We need affirmative action. We need everything. We need the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. We need everything that we can get, because statistics and the history is showing that we are simply not getting a fair shake in this judicial system. So this is my night for my weekly voting workshop. So I'm going to give you a little voting information, and this is what people really need to realize, and this is what motivated me to do this voting information and voting workshop, is because the criminal justice system, the judicial system, is political. It's political. And people need to wake up. We need to wake up and realize that this is political. Those judges, wherever, Frisco, Texas, those judges and possibly a lot of those DAs are, they are elected. Those are elected officials. The DA is elected officials. The judges, they're elected officials. And that's voting there. That's voting. And we can't ignore that. We cannot ignore this stuff and pretend like it doesn't apply, because it does apply, because those people, they are elected officials, and I don't care what anybody says, they're not supposed to, but those elected officials, those judges, those prosecutors, those people working in those courts and those systems, they bring their prejudices and they bring their biases into those courtrooms with them. And I'm telling you what, the people who vote, they're not listening to the people who don't vote. The people who vote wanted Carmelo Anthony convicted. The people who vote wanted him convicted, and they're going to listen to the people who vote. They're going to do what they want them to do. And those people, those voters, their feelings are, they wanted him locked up, and he was locked up. He was convicted. Because the voting does matter. Now, let's throw this out here. Let's throw some hypotheticals out there. Now, what do you think would happen? What do you think would happen if they knew that there was that all those people over there who are dissatisfied with that verdict, and they know that all of those people were going to go to those polls, not just this election, every election, and they were going to come and they were coming to vote their asses out. Oh, excuse me, I said I wasn't going to cuss, but I'm sorry. But if they knew that people were going to come out and people were going to vote and get them out of those offices, then maybe they wouldn't be kicking black people off the jury. And maybe it would have been a more sympathetic ear to what this young man had going on and his right to defend himself. You know, what if? These are all what ifs. What if all those people over there in Frisco, Texas, who were protesting and expressing their dissatisfaction with that verdict, what if they all got together and said, look at him, we're going to this poll? What if they mobilized, got together, every last one of them, and went to that poll and voted their asses out of office? I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But sometimes, you know what, it'll make you cuss. But that's what we have to do. Protesting is good. Protest, yeah, protest. Protest. Bring awareness to your grievances. Protest. Then you participate. You go vote, and then you change policy. Protest, participate, change policy. Because this stuff, you know, they say we don't need any protections. They say we didn't need affirmative action. They say we don't need disparate disparate impact. They said we don't need the Voting Rights Act. They say we don't need affirmative action. But things keep happening. These things keep happening. So really the solution, when we go and we protest after the fact and we don't vote, man, that's just like going and trying to buy insurance after you wreck the car. That's like going and you know, buying fire insurance after the house burned down. You know, we have power to make an impact on these situations, and if these people don't know, they're gonna be held accountable at the voting poll. This stuff is gonna keep happening because it's been happening. It's already been happening. It's been happening for years, and you know, we're not voting our numbers, and we're not gonna get it done voting 40% and 25% of our numbers. We got to get out. We got to vote, and you got to put the fear of God in these people, and you got to let them know that there is gonna be some accountability at that voting poll, at that ballot box. And I ain't talking about just this year. I'm talking about every year. I'm talking about every election. I'm talking about the midterm election. I'm talking about the general election. I'm talking about the primary election. I'm talking about the special election. I'm talking about the runoff election. I'm talking about your local election, your city election, county. All we need to vote every time at every election. Every time the poll opens up, we need to be lined up and ready to vote, because until these things are political. These things, it shouldn't be, but the judicial system, all these systems are political. They're political. They shouldn't be, but those political biases come into those courtrooms and they affect these outcomes. And if we don't get out and vote, it's gonna happen again. It's already happening. These were just big cases that made it into the news and got a lot of press and got a lot of awareness, and basically this is what has everybody's attention. But this has been going on. This hasn't just started. This has been going on, and it's happening because we don't vote. Some people are saying I'm not on camera, but I'm on camera. But yeah. But I said I was gonna give y'all some voting workshops. So, but we were able to connect this to voting because voting is important. And if you want more favorable outcomes in this court system, in the judicial system, we're gonna have to vote. And we're gonna have to vote our numbers. You know, because that's participation. Eventually, you have to stop protesting and start participating. And that's what I hope. That's what I hope will happen in Frisco, Texas. I hope those people get together. I hope they get together and they go rock that vote, and they go and they line up at those polls just like they're lined up in front of the courthouse. Line up at those polls and vote their asses out of office. I said I wasn't gonna cuss, but I'm sorry, because it'll make you cuss. There's some levels of ignorance and injustice that the English language simply does not have words for. That's why we cuss. And when black folk getting killed over bottles of water, when you can't even touch the merchandise. You cannot touch the merchandise. So look, there are so many stories. 3 weeks ago, black man was sitting in a bank parking lot waiting for the bank to open. The bank called the police on him. You can't bank while black. You can't drive while black. You can't walk while black. Now you can't drink water while you black. All right. So let me wrap this thing up. Thank y'all for tuning in. I apologize, I don't have any slides. I'm on the road today. But I hope you come join me next week. We got the runoff election coming up on the 19th. So anyone who hasn't registered to vote, so you won't be able to vote in this election. And if you voted on a Republican ballot in the last election, you won't be able to vote in the Democratic ballot. You will have to stick to whatever ballot you voted on in the primary. So June 19th is the runoff election. We got a couple of races that are key races that need to be decided in this runoff. So I recommend anybody who's registered and anybody who voted in the primary, you got to come back. We got to come back and vote in this runoff. I don't have a list of all the candidates, but I know we got the Corey Lariat running for U.S. Senate. I know he's in a runoff. I can't recall his opponent's name, but basically you got to come back. Please come back and vote. We got to get our voting numbers up, because if we don't, Carmelo Anthony, it's gonna happen again. It's gonna happen again. Breonna Taylor, gonna happen again. Trayvon Martin, it's gonna keep happening. It's happening every day. There are 1 million Carmelo Anthonys out there, and it's gonna happen again as long as we don't vote. Please come back, join me next week, and that's all I got to say. Thank you. Signing off.